Hi, everyone. I want to go over the basic timeline when buying a house. This is what I go over with my buyers in our buyer orientation meeting. So, of course, the very first thing is you've made the decision to purchase a home right here. And then, of course, choose me, Martha Cox, as your trusted real estate advisor. The very first step before we even start looking is you want to qualify with a lender. I have lots of lenders that I can refer you to that are local, that you have their cell phone numbers that will be with you to the day of closing at nights, on weekends. It's very important. One of the reasons why you want to pre-qualify with a lender is that you want to make sure that you are in the best position. You want to make sure that when you are presenting an offer and somebody else is presenting an offer, that you have already been pre-qualified, that you are positioned to be accepted for that offer above everybody else. Another thing that's going to help you with is the lender's going to tell you what you can afford. And then that way we know what price range to start narrowing it down on to look for the home. So then we start the fun part. This is the fun part. Here's the home search. So we will start a home search. I will put together an automated email that will go to you. You will know the minute things come on the market. And then you will know when you step in that house that this is the one, and we will make an offer. So then we go through the process of negotiating an offer. And at that point, your offer is based on what you can actually see in the home. We have not done an inspection at that time. You're making an offer based on what you see in the home and also what you see in a seller's disclosure. A seller's disclosure is a form filled out by the seller that discloses everything that they know or that they know through a previous inspection that is wrong with the home. Then at that point, you will negotiate the offer. But at that point, the buyer, you and the seller will agree and you will have a contract. But you will have an option period within that time frame, which is typically 7 to 14 days. And here I have written out some expenses of an estimation to plan for budget-wise. So at that point, you will be required to put down earnest money. It's typically about 1% of the contract price of the home. Earnest money, it's when you put your teeth in the game. It's kind of like an engagement ring. It puts something behind the backing of the promise to close the deal. That earnest money is going to go immediately to the title company. They are going to hold it into, they will cash it, but it will be held into an escrow account. It does not go to the seller at this point. And if you close, the earnest money typically will be applied to your purchase at the end of on closing day. There's also an option fee that is typically around $100, and it goes directly to the seller, and that is cashed and it goes right to them. That buys that time frame where you have the option to cancel, because like I said back up here, when you negotiated the offer, you don't necessarily have all the information that you might need. So your option period begins when you execute this contract, and that option period is typically about 7 to 14 days. During that option period, you have the option to back out for whatever reason. You could have buyer's remorse. You could have an inspection that you find out that there's a repair that is just too great for you to overcome. Situations could change. But during that option period, I advise everyone to have an inspection. An inspection is going to cost about $500. And I also advise during that time to have a specialist with an HVAC company come out and do a separate inspection for about $100. It's about $100 to $150. One of the reasons why we recommend the HVAC person to come out and do that outside of the inspection is they are specialized. And then also, if they find that there's nothing wrong with the HVAC unit, you have that certification of the documentation that everything is okay with the unit. So if something goes wrong with it, say in the next year or so, and you choose to use your home warranty company to repair it, it's a little bit more difficult for them to claim that it's a pre-existing condition if you have the documentation of the inspection. So anyway, so you're going to want to find out that information. You're also going to look at termite. You want a termite inspection or a wood destroying inspection. That is typically about $75. At that time, you also want to contact your home insurance company, and they are going to begin what is called a clue report. And a clue report is basically, I kind of equate it to like Carfax for houses. So at that time, you will have them run a clue report to see what claims have been filed. And then you'll also choose your home warranty company as well. everything's negotiable in real estate. Typically, the seller will pay for a home warranty company for the next year. But again, everything is negotiable. So then it goes on to the next stage. These things are typically paid outside of closing. It depends on the lender, but an appraisal is ordered. That runs about $425, $450. It can be more. An appraisal is ordered by the lender because the lender wants to loan money on a property that they know will appraise to a certain value. And we have to make sure that the property appraises to that value. So this is something ordered by the lender. If a survey wasn't already provided, that might be an additional requirement that is ordered at that time, of course, by the lender and by you. You want to see where, your fence lines are and your property lines are. And that can typically run between $400 to $450. And again, everything is negotiable as to who pays for these fees. So that can either be paid for by the buyer or by the seller. So then moving right along, you're going to want to get your utilities set up. You'll be able to look at the seller's disclosure to see who the utility companies are and oftentimes phone numbers. We have a concierge service in our office that will help you get all of that set up at a discount as well. Set up your movers, and then you get to closing day. So closing day is where you go to the title company and you will need to bring a cashier's check and a government photo ID. And recently we've even seen 2 forms of ID that are needed. But closing day is the day where the seller will have a closing, and then you will have, as a buyer, a separate closing. And then you get the keys, and then when it funds, the house is yours. So that's the timeline for buying a house. Anyway, half of this is just education. It's educating yourself with the timeline and what's involved along the way. And I'd love to be your trusted real estate advisor. Just give me a call if you have any questions or if you know anyone that wants to buy a house, sell a house, or invest in a house.